Premier League Chief Executive Richard Masters has told a group of MPs that he is unable to comment on whether his organisation is investigating who has control of Newcastle. Now, this follows court documents being published in the United States, which describe the Saudi Public Investment Fund as essentially being controlled by the state. And it raised fresh questions over the link between the fund and the Saudi government. The Premier League said they received legally binding assurances when they approved the takeover of Newcastle back in October 2021 that there was no state involvement. So this is what Richard Masters told the Digital Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee earlier today.
You've been given assurances that the Saudi government doesn't have any direct control over Newcastle United Football Club by Amanda Staveley, but in a statement, in an interview that I saw on Twitter, she says that PIF is an autonomous, commercially driven investment fund. But in the submissions in the court case, that the Public Investment Fund is claiming it is a government body and therefore has sovereign immunity and cannot be called to give evidence or submit evidence in the litigation. Is that going to prompt you to revisit the Newcastle United Football Club arrangements?
I'm afraid I'm going to frustrate you, Clive, because I can't really comment on it. I mean, even to the point of saying, is the Premier League investigating it? We can't really comment on it. Obviously, we are completely aware, and you're correct about the general nature of the undertakings that we received at the point of takeover. But I can't really go into it at all. The only time when the Premier League comments publicly on regulatory issues is charged, and at the end of the process, when an independent panel has decided whether any rule breaches have actually taken place, and the investigatory process we don't talk about at all.
Richard Masters was also asked about the new football regulator being proposed by the government here. This is supposed to ensure financial sustainability across the pyramid. The Premier League's been criticised for its willingness to engage with the process, and after some prompting from the chair, Masters finally said that he would welcome the new proposals.
We've ended up here with a white paper implementing an independent regulator to oversee certain parts of the game. Of course, I think we'd all prefer it wasn't happening this particular way. But it is happening, and we are going to engage constructively with it.
Just an attempt to get a yes or no answer, because I was confused. Does the Premier League welcome an independent regulator? Yes or no?
I don't like yes or no answers, because there's always a nuance in between, and obviously you can ask me any question. We're totally accepting the regulator is happening, and we want to make it work. So on that basis, I think that the answer is obviously getting to a yes.
Well, the regulator is one of the ideas that came out of the fan-led review, which was headed up by former Sports Minister Tracy Crouch MP. She has accused the Premier League of wanting to, quote, kick it into the long grass.
I've heard from many people, and it's all anecdotal, that the Premier League's approach to this report has been to kick it into the long grass. Have you picked up on that anywhere?
Yeah, I feel that is one of the tactics that is being deployed. The EFL, who represent obviously 72 of the clubs, have been engaged pretty much from the start. I think that the starting position may have been one of cautiousness about the idea of independent regulation, but I think that they have been savvy to recognise that this has been the direction of travel, and they certainly got on the train very quickly. I would say that the FA has made progress since the appointment of the new chair, Debbie Hewitt, and who has come in and I think been a breath of fresh air in terms of the governance of the FA, and recognised that there has been much needed reform and is grasping that. But I haven't seen that willingness to engage and to recognise the challenges and the vulnerabilities of football governance from the Premier League.
She has a perception that the Premier League would prefer this all not to be happening. And
where do you think she's got that perception from?
Well, she has her own sort of lived experience of it. Obviously,
her lived experience was she was often waiting weeks for you to come back on things. You weren't responding.
That I don't recognise that at all. I mean, if we responded to every single part of the fan-led review.
You're directly saying that what Tracy said wasn't true.
No, I'm not saying that at all. She
It's
thinks
almost
that,
what you said, actually. You,
No,
you stopped yourself saying it with the mouth. The mouth said the words. Didn't come out, but if you were
really
saying...
sorry, Julie, but if she's saying she asked us for information, we didn't give it to her, then I would like to be reminded
said
of
there
when
was
that
a
happened.
lack of willingness to engage, and she often waited weeks for things to come back for responses.
Okay, well, we'll have to go back in time and look at all of that. I'm certainly not saying that that isn't her perception of what happened, but I'm trying to paint a picture of what I believe is the truth.
And can I ask, you've said it was discussed, this has all been discussed at length at board meetings. Has there been any discussions at those board meetings about kicking it into the long grass?
When we had the change of government to the Johnson government, to the Truss government, it was clear that that government had a very different view about regulation.
Which
in a very short period, the Truss government had a very different
49
opinion about
days.
it, the 49 days. But, you know, we have had multiple secretaries of state to deal with. And
Have we?
Yes, and we have done so. We've engaged with all of them willingly and openly and had constant dialogue with the department over all of these issues. So I don't recognise the kick it into the long grass narrative